All right, so today we're looking at the sine rule. So the sine rule can be used with any triangle. So even if it's a right angle. So if you're sometimes not sure, you can use these rules, where the other rules like SOHCAHTOA and Pythagoras, you must have a right angle triangle. So you need to know. So with the sine rule, it doesn't have to be a right angle triangle. And what we do is we label the angles with a capital letter of the triangle. So this is how the rule is set up. So that capital A will indicate that angle in there, and that B, that angle, and that C. And we label the sides of the triangle the opposite. So because this side is opposite angle A, it gets called little a. And because this side is opposite side B, it gets called little b. And then obviously and little c. So that's how you have to set up the triangle. And then when you set the triangle up like that, we can say if you have side A over sine the angle, it will equal the same as if you have side B over sine B. And obviously it works for all these combinations. So you've got the three options there. So we're going to find out that we might need, when we're trying to find an unknown side, we'll find that we have some of the information and we'll be able to use this rule. So you can use this rule when you have two angles on one side and you need to find another side, or if you have an angle that's opposite a side length of another side. But don't worry, we'll just go through. Let's just practice this rule first. Okay, so here we've got a triangle. And you can see it says find the length AB. So if you look, at that, AB has been labelled little c. So we want little c. So when you're saying that, you know that you will need to use this part of the sine rule. So you got to use the c part because that's what the question they ask. And if you have a look at the diagram, we have been given side B and also angle B. So that's the other one I'm going to use when I'm working it out. All right, so sine B. So all you have to do now is just substitute in what you don't know. So I don't know what C is, but I know that the angle C is 31 and side B is 10 and the angle for B is 70. Okay, and at this point we can use our calculator and we can go solve comma C. So let's just go have a look at that. Okay, so we find C to equal 5.5, and I'll just say centimeters because they were measuring in centimeters. All right, so if we go down to this next one, this one was an exam question. So when you have it, it says find the length RT. So if you don't want to use the letters they've used, that's fine, and you want to use what we're used to, that's fine as well. So just call them A, B, C if you like, little a, little b, little c. So they want me to find RT, which is this one, B. So I'll definitely have to use B because that's the one I need. And then I've got to go and have a look and see what else I have been given. Now, I've been given side A, and I also have angle A, so that's okay, so I can use that one. So I'll use A over sine A, and then you just substitute everything in. So B is what I'm trying to find, and sine 108 equals A, 45 over sine 54. So this is question 2, so it's pretty simple, so that's fine. We're happy to go through this. For this one, it's B. So 52.9. So I'm going to go with 53 centimeters. All right. Now, you don't have this one in your notes, and I can send this to you after, but I want you to just go with me on this because we didn't find an angle like this, a basic one in our notes. So I'm going to add it in. All right, so when we've got to find the angle, so we've been given two sides, as you can see there. So if I was, and it's telling me to find angle A. So if I've got to find angle A, I'm definitely using the A scenario here. Okay, So then I'm going to use, I also have both, if you look here, you can see I've got both of B. So I'll use B as well to set it up. So that's what I'll use. Okay, so then I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that side A is 6, and I don't know what sine X is. And then I pop in the B values, which is 10 over sine 25. Okay, so we're just going to go and do this on our calculator, and we're just going to see what happens if we just do solve at this instant, and I'll go comma X. All right, so we'll go have a look on the calc. Okay, so I've prepared it a bit earlier. So here we set up the thing and we popped in solve and we did comma X, and we saw we got this scenario. So then we decided, so I said, no, we need to pop in that X can only be somewhere between 0 and 180. So the way you find, you pop that into your calculator is you put those symbols that are highlighted here, down here in purple, and they're in the control equal if you're looking for it. So you pop that in. So we got these two possible answers when we did it. Now, we already know one of the angles up in our triangle is 25. So if I had 15 plus 25, that's fine. That'll only equal 40. So that's okay because two angles add up to 40, and then the other one I could work out. If you look over here, if I use this other scenario where they said it's 165, if I add 165 plus 25, I go over 180. So that's more degrees than there is in a triangle. So that definitely is not the option. And looking at my diagram up there, I can see that it's not an obtuse angle, meaning more than 90. I can see it's probably smaller. So now I can see that this is going to equal, I just rounded there, 15 degrees. All right, so we're going to do this way. And this is always going to help us because, unfortunately, there can be a scenario where two options are possible. And so we've got to be careful and look out for that. So if let's go and do this question here. It says, show that the value of sine X is given by. So here they're catching you out that you can't just solve, and there's also programs on your calculator where you can just type in all the data and it'll tell you every bit of the triangle. But this is, so they know this, so then they're catching you out with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve it like I normally would. So little a and little b. So I can see, because a is the question, I would be using a here, so I'll use a over sine a, and I'll equal, and I've got both of b, so I'll use sine b. Okay, if I plug in all the details, I've got 4 over sine x equals 8 over sine 125.1. So what that happened is this is showing you whether you can't use the solve, because they're not actually asking what just x is, they're asking what sine x is. Okay, so you just have to rearrange. Now, if I move this over an equal sign, it was dividing on the bottom, so it'll times. And that's the same with this one. So what we're going to do is we're moving over the equal sign, and they will times on the other side. So here that 125 goes up here and equals 8 times sine. This is what the calculator is doing. Now, obviously, we want to get this sine x by itself. So I'll move now this 8 away from it, and because it's timesing, it would divide on the other side. So you end up with 125.1 divided by 8 equals sine x. Now, these 4 and the 8 can cancel down, because there's 1 and 2. So you'll end up with, you see, this is how you get the answer A. Okay? So a few people might have solved for X and then just tested which ones gave it the answer, it just will take a lot longer. But, you know, it's only one-off, so you don't get them very often. All right, so now we're going to keep going. So when I told you, when we had a look at the angle before, when we were finding the angle, we saw that we can get two options, and we eliminated one because it didn't make sense. It was impossible. But when you get this, sometimes we call it the ambiguous case, is when we get the two scenarios are possible. So we'll get two scenarios or there's two answers that it could be. And it's often when they don't, you have to look at for extra information. You might be able to tell which one it is by the diagram, or you might just have to state that there's two possible answers. So what they're saying is if you you had if you look down here and if you had two sides of a triangle that were given to you. So what they're saying is that this A and this B, they're still the same length. So say if that was 3 and that was 4, this is still 3 and this is still 4, okay? But what's happening is the angle is swinging and changing. But even though this B angle is not changing, up here where it's moving out, one could move it in or one could move it out, and so we see that we can get two options. We could get that when it turns out to be 110 here or 170 here. So this is what we got to look out for. It's harder questions, so definitely at the harder end, but that's why I showed you the other way when we're finding the angle to hopefully pick it up. So so it's worth noting that the ambiguity occurs when the smaller known side is opposite the known acute angle. So you know this, what we're saying here, I know this angle B, and the smaller side is opposite. Yeah, all right, we'll work it out. Let's go. So I'm going to show you this question. So it says, find the missing angles for this triangle ABC. So they didn't really give me the diagram. They just told me there's this triangle ABC. So I've got A, B, and C. So if I write out the information, so little b was 7.8 and little c was 8.29, and they gave me angle B. Okay, so if they want me to find the missing angles, so say X and Y here. Okay, so if I'm going to go and find, I've got B, so I'll use B, and I've been given side C, so I'm going to find that one first, okay, because that's what I can do. So I'll pop this in and I get 5.78 over sine, that should be sine B, over 34, and equals 8.29 over sine Y, I called it in this diagram. All right, so then if we go and do the solve, we will see that we get these answers. Let's go have a look. So here's what I've done. So I popped it in the solve and we had a look here. So we solved and we saw that both of them are possible scenarios, because if you add 53 and 34, it's still under 180. And if you add 34 to the 126, we get 160, it's still under the 180. So say if I write this one down here, this one would have been 87, okay? So it's still under. So they're both possible answers. So we were finding angle C here. So one scenario is where we found C to be 53. So the triangle would have looked like this, okay? And if you go to find the second scenario where we said that it was 127 up here, then we get this scenario, okay? So the way you, so that's where we got two options. So find the missing angles for the following triangle. So in this case, you've got two scenarios. You could have this one, 53, 34, and then you'd have to find this one, which would be 180 minus those other two. And then you've got your other scenario up here where this one, where it's this way, and you would have done 180 minus the other two, which was 34 plus 27. 127, sorry. All right, so they're the two scenarios. So that's what can happen. So you have to check that they have to work. You need to look at the diagram if they give you one. Which option are they giving you? If they don't give you a diagram, you might have to state both options. Okay. You will notice maybe in a textbook they will tell you if you do, oops, I'll show you. If you do end solve on your calculator, you will get the smaller option, which is the 53. Okay. If you do end solve, you get 53. So you can find the second option by going 180 minus 53. So, but let's just do it this way so that we're aware and we're checking that we don't have that ambiguous case when we're getting questions. All right, so you guys have this question in your book, but I deleted all the working out because I want to show you how, like, we want you to do it here. Okay, so it said the obtuse angle PQR, find the unknown angle P. So I marked it X and I just drew up my triangle like I normally would, ABC. And I've been given both of A, so I want to find that angle C. So that's the one I use. So I set it up and I've typed it all into my calculator using the solve and setting the area, like the dimensions that the angle can be. And I find out that I get the two options. Now I get 74, or rounding up to 75, and I get 105. Now, I was already given 40. Sorry, I don't know why I'm adding 50 here. I was adding 40. So if I add 40 to my 75, you're still going to be under, it's still going to be under 180. So we can still use that. So we'd get 114 there. So that one still works. And then if you look at this one and we add the 40, the one we already have, which was 40, we end up with 145. So they're both possible answers, okay? But if I look up here, the angle up here they gave me the diagram, and because of the diagram, it is an obtuse angle. It's greater than 90. So it won't be this little, it won't be the little option. It's going to be the bigger option. So I can say that the angle must be the 105 version because I've looked at the diagram, okay? Okay, so here's another one. It says find the possible values for the magnitude of the angle XZY in the triangle XYZ. So you've got working out in there, but I didn't want to use it. I wanted you to use the same way every time. So if you label your triangle XYZ, obviously you can do it where it's like little x and little y and little z. So you can do it like that. So this is what we did. We had, we got given y was 5. So we got given that was 25. We got given that was 5. And we got given little z was 6. So I've gone out to find what z, because it says find the possible magnitudes of the angle XZY. So that means they wanted z, and c given away with the possible, meaning there's probably going to be more than one. So we pop it in and we use our restriction, and I did it there, and you can see now both options are going to work because one option's 30 and one's 49, and if we've already got 25, they're still both under 180. So there we go. we give your possible solutions could be 30 degrees or 30 degrees or 150. And this was just showing you what the combination of the two sets of triangles could be. It could be this combination, so where we found that 30 was an option, or it could be this situation where we had 150. All right. Okay, so this was another exam question, and so I'm just showing you, it's up in question 7, so it is a little bit of that case. So it says the triangle ABC has, so even if you want to start drawing it yourself, you go A, B, C. AB has a length of 4 and BC has a length of 7, and the angle ACB is 26. So they pretty much told me that. And they're saying which of the following angles, correct to the nearest degree, could not be another angle in this triangle. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I have little c, so I have C, so I'm definitely going to use sine C, and I've been given, little a, so I'm going to find sine A first. Okay, so if I go and do that in the calculator, well, first I'll pop in, so I would have had 4 over sine 26 equals 7 over sine, and x, I'm trying to find A. So if I go and pop it in, solve, comma x, with that restrictions, so we can go do that. Might just copy that one. So I can change it. So I've got the 7, that's the one I don't know. I know this one, 4 over sine 26. Okay, so I get x to be either 50 degrees or 130 degrees. Okay. So we get x to be 50 or 130. So one option is when you have 26, 50, and the last one would be 180 minus those two. So that would be 104. Yeah. And so that's one option that the triangle could be, or the other option could be 26, 130 and 24, because they would all add up to equal 180 as well. So if you go through the answers, we got that one can be an answer, that could be an angle, 104 was an option, 130 was an option, it was just E that wasn't. So they go through it down here. This was the examiner's way, but I think we want to stick to one way all the time, and this is the way I want you to try and do it, so that you can see your two answers, and it'll make the ambiguous case stand out to you and you'll notice it, and also probably a bit easier to get where. Okay, this question I'm gonna leave until after, I wrote a note up there, to after 18E. It is an ambiguous case one, but it's got bearings in it, so we need to do practice of that before we do this question. I'll go back to it when we're up to it.